Hello and welcome to this exploring session, and today we are looking at Enough is as Good as a Feast by William Wagger Wugu. Who knows? I haven't decided on how to pronounce his name, even though we've done 3 of his plays already. We have 3 other plays, and this is the 4th play of his we're doing, and the last play available, though he only has 4 plays that survive, but frankly for the 1560s, that's pretty good. He has written The Cruel Debtor, which is on the podcast, Trial of Treasure, and The Longer Thou Livest, The More Fool Thou Art, which are on YouTube, and links will be available in the show notes and also probably at the end of this video as well for you to go and find those things if you like the cut of this man's jib. My general memories is that he's quite fun in a weird sort of way. So lots of things will come up as we go with this very fruitful, godly, and full of pleasant mirth, the printer has decided to call this. It is, despite what's actually down in the scripts in front of everyone, probably dating from around 1568, somewhere around there. It's got a span between 1563 to 1570. That's sort of the general area when he was writing plays, and we have this wonderful team of people today to read through it and generally find a level, find out how it's all going to go. We're going to do the first half of the play today with Contentation and Temerity, read by...
Hello, my name is Sascha Cooper, and I'm a professional actress based in Brighton in the UK, and I have a slight distraction problem.
To be fair, my lead-up was carefully hidden amongst a lot of other words, so it didn't quite sound like I was throwing the baton out there. Reading Prologue and Covetousness today is...
Hello, my name is Valentina, and I'm an Italian actor in London, and I'm a voiceover artist as well.
Also, today we have reading Inconsideration and Enough is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm a historian. I'm currently in Yorkshire.
Reading Worldly Man today is...
Hi, Alan Scott, not an actor, based in Suffolk.
And reading Heavenly Man and Precipitation is...
Hi, I'm Tamara. I am an actor. I am usually based in London, but currently still stuck in Germany.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading stage directions and generally trying to guide us through the text. We have only done a modicum of work on the text in advance, so we may hit some textual problems and issues as we go into it. In theory, according to the title page, this is doubleable to 7. We're actually going to do it with 5 people in this room at the moment, and it just about works for us. I think 7 people is excessive. I think you could probably do it with 6. So, but there are all sorts of interesting questions about how it was originally doubled, which we might address in a future session, but not today. The play opens with quite a prologue, I think it's fair to say, leading the witness there. So, without further ado, let's have the prologue.
I know that this worshipful audience is at this time together congregate of our practice to have intelligence, and with the same themselves to recreate. God grant us grace the same well to publicate, but for them that have slept upon us, this faculty is more meet for them than for us. Pandite pierides vestrosaca osta vita. Open your holy doors, O pleasant muses, direct our tongues to speak eloquently, virtues to praise and to touch abuses, dividing either of them plain and directly, that it may appear to all our audience evidently, that this matter which we now go about by your inspiration was first found out. Oh, that with some grace you would us inspire, and deal with us as with our fears you dealt. Then should all affections have their desire, for through his music he made stones to melt. No kind of pain in hell then the souls felt. For he played so pleasantly with his harp, that they forget their pains grievous and sharp. Tantalus forget his hunger and thirst, Sisyphus left of rolling his stone. Ixion tormented among the worst, forgate his will that he was hanged on. The woman Belides left work anon, whose labour was continually to fill a tun, where out by clefts the liquor still doth run. These fables wherefore do I call to mind? Truly because I desire with all my heart that our English metre may be of such kind, both to leave all grievousness and smart, and also to be pleasant in every part, that those which come to recreation may not be void of their expectation. Poets feigned Mercurius to have wings, both on his head and on his heels also, for livery and swift he was in all the things, appearing rather to flee than to go. Of him they feign mainly godly things mo. But to our purpose this shall serve this season, and why I speak you shall know the reason. Mercurius is the god of eloquence, by whom I understand the ministers of talk, such must have the wings of intelligence in their heads before their tongues to far do walk. The danger of rash speech they must wisely calk. When, where, and to whom they speak they must note, before that anything pass out of their throat. As Mercurius has wings upon his head, so hath he wings on his heels ready to fly. When affection standeth in reason's stead, reporters of tales use eftsoons to lie. The heels affection do also signify. The wings do always reason comprehend, which unto virtue ought to condescend. Few words to wise men are sufficient, without a cause I give not to this monition. Unto good men it is plain and evident that many men have that lewd condition, by their evil words to bring good men into suspicion. By their undiscreet talk they do much harm, because they want reason their tongues to charm. Let this pass and go with the argument, which we will declare in words general. Now, such as have a learned judgment know that among the poets comical, in brief sentence it was usual to show the whole contents of the comedy in the argument, which did well verily. But our tongues have not so comely a grace in that point as hath the Latin and Greek. We cannot like them our sentences eloquently place, that our poets to their orators may be like, as they know well which for such matters do seek. But to do our best, indeed we will not neglect, trusting that wise men the same will accept. Our title is enough, is as good as a feast, which rhetorically we shall amplify, so that it shall appear both to most and least that our meaning is but honesty. Yet now and then we will dully merrily, so we shall please them that of mirth be desirous. For we play not to please them that be curious. For a preface, I fear I am too long, but I have said that I will say now, the worldly man is frolic, lusty, and strong. Who will show his qualities before you? Stout he is, and in any wise will not bow. Behold yonder he comes into this place. Therefore thus I finish our simple preface. Finis.
Well done.
Oh, breathe.
Yeah.
Bravo!
There, I mean, it is. It's. There's lots of good stuff in there, but you know, the prologue is absolutely right. For a preface, I fear I am too long.
Too bloody right.
And well done, because you didn't really get much of notice that you were doing that. So
That was fun.
It goes through lots of things that prologues do, calling on the muses, we've got this lovely audience in front of us. A little hint there as well, I'm not sure, I might be overstating that because of one word, that Wager's, he's been printing these pretty much every year, perhaps, does a play and then gets it printed. So when he says, the audience in the room, but also God grants us grace the same well to publicate, whether, I don't know if that is actually necessarily about publishing or just whether, you know, publishing this by saying it out loud, that is an element there. But I do wonder if he's playing to two audiences with this speech. So that's a little thought. Calling on the Muses, and yeah, vaguely at some point you get to sort of all these questions about evil words and good words and stuff that we get to. Sort of the meat of what you're saying is only about 5-6 lines long. With the entire opening speech. Thoughts?
Could it be cut slightly before performance?
Took the words out of my mouth.
You know,
I mean, I love that they acknowledge that. I
Hmm.
love that, you know, even back then people were like, clearly this is too long.
It's not the first time we've had an overly long prologue where the actual, I mean, in the four elements in the sort of opening introduction with the cast list, it actually explicitly says this bit can be cut, this bit can be cut, this bit can be cut, and the thing will be half as long. So yeah, maybe. I actually thought it sort of bounced. You know, you could do quite a lot with this. Actually, I was pleasantly surprised. Actually, how's it to do it, Valentina?
I think that was my thought. Like, I think you can do quite a lot with it, and it's also built for comedy. Also, like the rhyming stuff, it's just. But yeah, to do it, and also like as a cold read, I was just like, what? Like, do we have a point at a certain point? Just like, what? Yeah, where's all that stuff with Mercury? That has so many wings. I didn't know Mercury had wings everywhere. Like, okay.
Well, I mean, the logic, you get to the reason later on, because, you know, as messenger, as speech, as
yeah.
But
it's just like it just goes in weird directions, and then it's like, yeah, and then you think like it's made his point, and it just goes on.
Tamara.
This is the first time that I've seen an overly long prologue and thought about the fact that this guy is there to warm up the crowd. The way that, you know, you would warm up a crowd before, you know, on TV shows, on live TV shows, you will have somebody come in and try and warm up the crowd, the audience, before the show starts. And I feel like this is what this guy has to be doing. And I think you can with the text. And it's funny that it took me this long and this many of them to realize this is what it is. This is the guy who comes on stage to warm everybody up.
It's one of the functions: warm them up or shut them down. You know, depending on what the crowd is doing. I particularly love. I mean, I'm thinking sound effects here. It's just when talking Orpheus and saying, you know, playing the harp. You know, Tantalus forgot his hunger and thirst. You know, and Sisyphus left the rolling of his stone. Ah, shit. It's so, you know, they're talking about really horrible things happening in mythology, but it's so light.
It's definitely built for comedy. I just like, I would love to see it done.
Yeah. Any additional thoughts before we move on? Because Alan,
I'm just wondering whether, in fact, given that we know that this was published, whether the prologue was actually expanded from whatever might have been on stage in terms of the warm-up routine, as we've just been talking about, for print purposes, to get the page count up.
I don't know if that would be the reason. It could be different. We do have evidence of plays being substantially different between performance and publication, or at least sometimes minor political changes are made. So we know in Gorbodoc, for example, an entire one of the dumb shows is substituted because the original one is very political about the Queen who is in the room at the same time, and then is changed for the later publication. So yeah, it could be changed. I wouldn't want to speculate as to why, if it is.
It does seem to hang together though as an argument.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a long time to get there, but there aren't any obvious interpolations.
Okay, let's get into the play itself. We've spent ridiculous amounts of time on this prologue. Okay, the prologue has introduced the entering worldly man. The stage direction, there are some wonderful stage directions in this, by the way, some really helpful ones and suggestive ones. But this is mostly prosaic. Enter worldly man, stout and frolic.
Because I am a man endued with treasure, therefore a worldly man, men do me call. Indeed, I have riches and money at my pleasure. Yea, and I'll have more in spite of them all. A common saying, better is envy than ruth. I had rather they should spite than pity me. The old saying nowadays proveth truth. North have naught set by, as daily we see. I wish I am not of the mind, as some men are, which looked for no more than will serve necessity. No, against the day to come I do prepare, that when age cometh I may live merrily. Oh, saith one, enough is as good as a feast. Yea, but who can tell what his end shall be? Therefore I count him worse than a beast, that will not have that in respect and see. As by mine own father an example I may take, he was beloved of all men, and kept a good house, while riches lasted. But when that did slake, there was no man that did set by him a louse. And so at such time as he from the world went, I mean when he died, he was not worth a groat. And they that had all his substance and spent, for the value of 12 pence, would have cut his throat. But I trow I will take heed of such. They shall go ere they drink when they come to me. It doth me good to tell the chinks in my hutch, more than at the tavern or alehouse to be.
I don't have an entrance, but anyway.
Yes, there are some gaps in the entrances and exits. Yes, Heavenly Man at some point has entered onto the stage. He may have been standing there a while, possibly.
God careth for his, as the prophet David doth say, and preserveth them under his merciful wing. The heavenly I mean, that his will do obey, and observe his holy commandments in all thing. Yet not for our sakes, nor for our deserving, but for his own name's sake, openly to declare that all men here on earth ought to live in his fear.
This same is one of our jolly talkers, that prattleth so much of heaven and hell. Oh, I tell you, these are godly walkers, of many strange things they can tell. They pass men, yea, angels they excel. Sir, are you not called the Heavenly Man? I've been in your company ere now, but I cannot tell when.
Yes, certainly, sir, that is my name. Unworthy of any such title, I do confess. God grant that I may deserve the same, and that my faults I may amend and redress. Therefore now the truth do you here express. Is not the worldly man your name?
Yea, indeed, sir, I am the very same.
From the heavenly... No, that's not me.
Yes, once again, we have another character who has entered without any kind of indication. So we have the entrance of Contentation, who just can't be kept away from the Heavenly Man.
Just a tad. From the heavenly man I cannot be long absent, which in God's promises hath his consolation, considering that he is always in content, patiently to suffer God's visitation. For understand you, my name is Contentation, whom the worldly man doth mock and deride, and will not suffer him once in his mind to abide.
This same is the grandsire of them all. This is he that will through water and fire good reasoning betwixt us now here you shall, but to follow him he will me earnest require. But he shall be hanged, or he have his desire. You're welcome, sir, save my quarrel indeed. You have reported of me much more than you need.
Nothing but truth, sir. Certainly I have said. Oft times I have counselled you your courteousness to leave, but my words as feather in the wind you have weighed, and stuck to them as glue to the water doth cleave. But take the heed, The reward thereof you shall receive. Once again I advertise thee to be content, and give thanks to God for that he hath thee sent.
I pray you be content, for I am pleased, and meddle you no more with me than I do with you.
To be angry without a cause, without mens, must be eased. We will be more earnest than ever we were now. Who saith our Saviour to those that are saith
Woe.
those to those that are rich, which therein only have their consolation. He curseth them not because they have much, but because they receive it not with contentation, building therewith to themselves a good foundation, that is to lay here on earth treasure great store, to purchase a kingdom that lasteth evermore.
Passion of me, maesters, what would you have me to do? You are fond fellows indeed, as ever I knew. If I should not take pains, ride, run, and go for my living, what thereof would ensue? A beggar would I die. Masters, this is true. Then my wife and children that I leave behind, I fear me at your hands small relief should find.
I have been young, saith David, and now am old, yet the righteous forsaken I never did see, nor their seed begging bread I did not behold. Therefore your mind to the prophets it doth not agree. Cast all thy burden and care, saith Christ, on me, and I will provide to keep thee from danger and strife. Only seek thou to live a goodly and good life.
When Solon was asked of Croesus the king, what man was most happy in this vale terrestrial, to the end he seemed to attribute that thing, when men be associate with treasures celestial.
By the beginning no man can judge the same. Solon doth say that any man is happy that beareth breath. But yet by the end partly judge we may. The true happiness, saith he, consisteth after death.
If this be true, as undoubtedly it is, what men are more wicked, wretched, and miserable than those that in riches account their bliss, being infected with ambition that's sickness incurable?
The treasure of this world we may well compare to Circe's the witch with her crafty courtitory, wherewith many men's minds so poisoned are, that quite they are carried to all infidelity. They are conjured so indeed, and bewitched so sore, that treasure is their trust, yea, hope and delight. Enough serveth them not, till that they have more, so against contentation they still strive and fight.
Though she, worldly men, do follow their lust, crying on earth is our felicity and pleasure, yet God doth so rule the hearts of the just, that their study is chiefly to get heavenly treasure.
Friends, I take you both for honest men. I promise you I would be glad to do for the best. Marry then, I take care which way and when I may get treasure therein with to live in rest. Oh, methinks it is a very pleasant thing to see a great heap of old angels and crowns. When I have store of money, I can be merry and sing. For money, as men say, winneth both cities and towns.
Alas, why should you not have that in estimation, which God hath prepared for his dear elect? Should not our minds rest in full contentation, having trust in that treasure most high in respect? St. Paul, whom the Lord so high doth erect, saith it passeth the sense, our memories and mind, much less can our outward eyes the same find. As for the treasure that you possess here, through fickleness of fortune soon fadeth away. The greatest of renown and most worthy peer, sometime in the end falleth to misery and decay. Record of Dionysus the king of much fame, of the valiant Alexander and Caesar the strong. Record of Quinus, which Superbus had to name, and of Heliogabalus that ministered with wrong. To recite them all, it would be very long, but these be sufficient plainly to prove how soon and uncertainly riches doth remove.
It is true, and therefore a mind well content is great riches, as wise King Solomon doth say. For we have seen of late days this canker pestilent corrupting our realm to our bitter decay. Ambition, I mean, which cheerfully doth reign among those who should have been example to other. Yea, we see how the Brethren they did disdain, and burned with fire the child with their mother. It is often seen that such monstrous ambition as spareth not to spill the blood of the innocent will not greatly stick to fall to sedition. The determinations of God thereby to prevent, but God, I trust, shall disappoint their intent, and overthrow the power of fading treasure, and cause us all to wish for the heavenly pleasure.
O you ancient men, whom God hath furnished with fame, be ye always mindful to walk in the ways of the just, and add evermore virtue to your honest name, and at no hand be overcome with covetous or lust, but in God's holy promise put confidence and trust. And then double felicity at the last we shall possess, and then in all earthly doings God shall give good success. Ye poor men and commons, walk in your vocation, banish fond fantasies which are not convenient, settle your minds with enough to have contentation, considering that leadeth to treasures most excellent, for these are uncertain, they are most permanent. Your necessity apply with treasure, faith, and trust, and you shall have enough always among the just.
And indeed enough is as good as a feast. Good Lord, how your words have altered my mind. A new heart, methinks, is entered in my breast, for no thought of mine old in me I can find. I would to God you would take me in your company, and learn me how I may be an heavenly man. For now I perceive this world is but vanity. Let a man therefore make as much of it as he can.
Do you speak as you think? And as you mind do you say? Could you be content to lead the rules of a godly life?
I do mean it truly, and I will study them night and day, for I regard neither treasure, children, nor wife.
Give me your hand, then together let us depart.
And I will wait on you, sir, with all my heart.
And they exit, and well, that's the end of the play. He's been turned around from worldly things by the heavenly man, and that's an early conclusion to this morality. Reason was enough to talk him round. No, there's quite a lot more to go. Some very good. Sorry, go on, Tamara.
And he's going to stop. He's not going to care about treasure anymore, but also not about his family.
Well, he might not have a child or wife. That might be an aspiration he's given up. He's going to live he's going to enter a cloister, and that'll be fine. Well done, everyone, for the occasional not typos, but things that haven't been modernised in spelling. There are a few there that were quite tricksy. We're going to meet covetousness without the nus most of the time. Just be down as covetous. Coming up, and that's going to be quite fun. It's a really interesting little back and forth. It's a quote off at times. It's like, this learned person said this, but this learned person said that, and I think that can be performed in a much more dynamic than dogmatic sense. I think there's play that can be had here. I love the way the Contentation turns up and says, "You've been dissing my friend." Can't have that.
Yeah, excuse me, mate. No.
And then says almost nothing.
Why do I get the feeling that they could almost be like the Tweedledum and Tweedledee of this generation type thing? But you know what I mean by Tweedledum and Tweedledee. They've got that back and forth. They think they're speaking as one voice, but they're not. It's that kind of weird thing going on there. Could be. Don't know.
Yes, the heavenly forces of Tweedledum and Dee. Helen.
Yeah, I see this as a very, very modern discussion. I had one in France once with an American who couldn't understand why the French had all gone off for lunch, leaving their shutting their shops and going home for lunch when they could be selling things to tourists.
Oh yeah, you could have that same.
And it was exactly the same. You know, what is the value of having a family lunch as opposed to making an extra $3? The American was completely unable to understand the French mentality, whereas the French just despise the Americans anyway.
It's known as Coca-Colanisation, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was exactly the same discussion. The line I loved was, "It doth me good to tell the chinks in my hutch," because I rather collect hutch references. A hutch is a chest with a front opening as opposed to a top opening.
Yeah, we may, and this is something for parallel checking later on, allegedly there's bits of one of Wager's other plays, The Trial of Treasure, possibly in this sequence, because they're mentioning treasure quite a lot. I don't know this for certain. But the one abiding memory I have of that is that there's a lengthy discussions about things which don't really seem to make sense as a trial of treasure within the title of that. And I'm wondering whether he's recycling similar thoughts there. That's one to check for another time. Keep seeing little flashes of influence of John Bale in his writing as well, every so often. There's a certain love of long polysyllabic words at the end of a line. Convenient, contentation, excellent, permanent. There's something very Balean about that, but I think maybe something. Again, that's just for those who've been following the other plays. Alan.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, the verse form I'm finding a lot more straightforward than some of the stuff we've done recently. One thing that's got me slightly puzzled is the stage direction that follows that scene. Exeunt ambo. I mean, exeunt omnes would make sense to me, but ambo?
Means both. As you
Three
know.
of them.
Yeah, it's it might mean that someone's left behind, but I don't think it does. I suspect it's probably just a little off. There might be something. There might have been another speech there or something, and someone was left behind. I don't know. It's a good question. But I suspect we're gonna. Suspect there's a lot of patchy stage directions. There's some very good stage directions, but it's quite patchy. We have no idea when Contentation or the Heavenly Man entered. You know, we don't know at what juncture they appeared.
And the song, which is upcoming, is all three voices, isn't it?
For the entering people, yes.
Yeah.
We won't make you say it in unison. We'll pick someone to do it. So yes, any additional thoughts? It's a nicely self-contained scene. Actually, it's a nice little showcase of this kind of debate form, which was much more prevalent earlier, and will, to a degree, be dying out in popular culture. It doesn't mean it disappears, but we just don't see it outside of printed texts. We don't see it in drama in the same way. Soon, as it were, it starts to disappear.
But a tremendous number of political texts way on, 20, 30, 40 years after this, still maintain a dialogue between three different people.
Yeah, it becomes a much more literary rather than a performed form. We will be doing more of those in the future. We've only done one so far.
They tend to be very tedious.
Yeah, they do, but I wouldn't perform them necessarily, but that doesn't mean they're not necessarily interesting or not worth having at least a gander at. Material. It's all material, Helen. Okay, any additional thoughts before we move into the next scene? No, we're done with worldly and heavenly men. So, entering in a moment, we're going to have Temerity, Inconsideration, and Precipitation singing this song. Pardon me there. Sascha, would you read this song so that we're not attempting unison?
Okay, no worries. Let me give it a go. When covetous is busy, then we three be all merry, for he doth trimly innuend to make us find frolic cheer. Vivility's never so dear, and all our money clean spent. Therefore we spare for no cost. We can be trusted of our host for shillings and one. Covetous hath a good wit, he findeth a mean to pay it, where all our money is gone. Therefore troll the bowl to me, with half child and half to thee, the longest liver pay all. Our trust is in Coetes, for he is prudent and wise, therefore money cannot fall. O covetous prudent prince, all strong walls you dost coince, and rulest them every one. Thou dost drive many adrift, and makest for us much shift, when all our money is gone.
Well done with that. There were lots of little lost ends in that. Also, beware U's. U's are often V's, and they should be spoken as V's. So transpose that. It's 20 shillings for 20 shillings and one. Again, apologies for not turning that into easily read numbers.
I couldn't exactly say XX.
No. Roman numerals, thank goodness it was only 2 of them. If it was more, I would have probably struggled myself. Okay, so they're all singing things. They're all followers of Covetousness. They're prudent prince, who coincidentally at this time makes his grand entrance. Enter Covetousness, the vice alone.
At Blackheath Field, where great Goliath was slain, the moon lying in childbed of her lost son, the Tyburn at Warwick, when the King of Spain, by whom the land of Canaan then was won, it happened between Peterborough and Pentecost, about such time as ye was made of wormwood, that child's work in Basilwood with fire was lost, and all through the treason of false Robin Hood, that so Sir Guy of Warwick and Colbrand, which fought against the sun and stopped his light, yea, quoth Hobgoblin, let me take them in hand, children not able to resist my might. A wonderful bloodshed was in those days, for Saint Stephen fought against the Golden Knight, in so much that Peter was fain to give his keys to those God knows that had to them no right. With the grief of that, all the saints in heaven proclaimed open wars at Barnard in the field. They fought from 6 o'clock to 11, or ever the traitors would give over and yield. But to say there was triumph in faith, there was. Saint Stephen the younger was made captain of the guard. Wonderful it was to see such things he brought to pass, as I am sure the like of them ye never heard. By guess, quoth Saint Stephen, it was time to trudge. Friar Francis took his flight to Paul's steeple. In fate, he was even with them for an old grudge, for he carried away the weathercock in spite of the people. Then was I dubbed Knight of Matkinniston, and made officer of all courts and laws. I gave offices and livings, many a one. Merry indeed, you may say, it was for a cause. In faith, the same day that Midsummer was married, I never loved better in my life. For even sudden in a way Saint Uncumber carried, both the bridegroom and the bride his wife. No remedy on God's name, but I must bear them company. Cheer in faith there was, cheer in bowls. And who was minstrel but Saint Anthony? He made melody for all Christian souls. A quarter of a year we tarried there in the tent, wherein we had Capricorn baked like red deer. I tarried so long till I was shent. Jesu, how they cried out of me there! Well, I must abroad among my friends. Every hour till I come, they think a day. I will go among them to fulfil their minds. Fare you well, gossip, I must needs away.
Okay. I love these. This isn't the first time we've had one of these. I think it's the third one we've got. It's he's singing a song. He's singing the first lines or the most famous line of a song,
Oh,
one after the other. So that's why it
okay.
makes no sense.
Yeah, I had no idea what was going on there. I was like,
Yeah, it's deliberate nonsense. So it's like you're singing all the most famous lines in a pop song, or various pop
Right.
songs in a weird sort of medley thing. And it seems to be a vicey kind of thing. I think I haven't checked. I think one of the other times we've got this is in another wager play. I could be wrong on that. I haven't double checked yet. And I
bloody
think
hell.
it turns in a much earlier play as well. There's another good example of this. From the printing press of John Restle, but I can't remember which. I'll try and rustle this up for the show notes or for tomorrow to talk in more detail. Yeah, but
Okay.
it's full of all sorts of craziness, and it's really a performer's piece. You've got to find a way of making that work. It might be sung, it might be spoken, it might be sort of semi-rapped. I have a memory, I think, of Stephen rapping a version like this in the most excruciatingly wonderful way. It was beautifully done. So, any thoughts from the room on that?
I thought it was some sort of weird Monopoly game going through London. You know, various parishes and places, and yeah, but the song lines make sense.
Yeah.
Well, the nature of its construction is, it's great because you just get this mashup, Blackheath where Great Goliath was slain. We're going, what? Hang on. What's going on there? Tyburn at Warwick was then King of Spain. It's all, everything sort of higgledy-piggledy and upside down. It's just...
So it's like a giant medley.
Yeah.
But a
Would you
nonsensical
want
one.
to redo it?
Yeah,
Like
completely
do all
nonsensical.
One Direction songs or like Ed Sheeran's?
Oh,
Like Adele's? I don't know.
Yeah, well, a bit of everything. The thing would be you would have to jump from going,
Yeah.
something.
It's probably
know,
more like all the great songs of the 80s.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, yeah.
you
Like-
want to go
like-
from different artists,
Like
deliberately
you
smashing.
start with like Africa, and then next is, I don't know, Michael Jackson, and then
ah, could be fun.
That would
Alan,
be fun.
Thought that occurred to me is there's a heck of a lot of the names in there which could be pub names,
Mhm.
and it could almost be an itinerary for a pub crawl.
Mm.
Yeah,
yeah, that works.
yeah.
just have to play bingo
You know,
with it.
and you could then play it that as he goes, he's getting more and more legless.
I mean, it also has. I mean, the bingo card reminds me of that the Tamara suggestion. There are speeches which do deliberately just basically list lots and lots of places, almost in the hope that you've toured through at least one of them. And so you throw in the name of somewhere, and it's you could almost have a bingo card with this to keep everyone ticking along.
That was an experience.
Yes, you seem to be getting these long speeches which are quite impenetrable.
Give it to the foreigner. That's what you want to do.
I
Okay,
don't plan
ignore
these
me.
things.
Yeah, meha yummy.
Okay, let's
Pick one of the bilingual kids.
yeah. We have on stage our assembled. Shall we call them bad guys? I don't know if they're all vices. Let's find out where the scene's going. We have Temerity, Inconsideration, Precipitation, and Covetousness. And they're all together. So maybe they give him a round of applause for his wonderful speech song medley thing.
I know they're all singing it according to the the stage direction. So I'm wondering
Oh,
what
it's
most
like
of
the
it's
heavy metal band of.
is it
Yeah.
being done? Is it being done almost as a round?
I don't think so. I think the
one
first.
line, one line, one line.
I think the first song is they sing for his entrance, and then Covetous has this.
That's
think
the
that's-
opening act.
Yeah, I think you can't tread on Covetous's toes because that's the vice, that's the clown. He'll deck you after the show if you try and steal his thunder.
So it's like Guns N' Roses, and he'd be Axel.
Yeah. Oh
Basically.
yeah. Anyway, let's go into the scene. Temerity starts.
What, brother Covetous? Whither away so fast? I saw you not by the mast till I was almost past.
What, my own brother Temerity? I rejoice to see you, as were by the Trinity.
For thee, we three have taken great thought.
Lord, how far about for you we have sought?
And I pray you, where have you three sought for me?
In the King's Bench, and in the Marshalsea, yea, and in all the counters, and at Newgate, for these are places met for thine estate.
Perceive well it must be my chance, above all your kinsfolk you to enhance. Your place is at St. Thomas' waitings, or else at Wapping beyond St. Catherine's. There will I dub you knights of the halter, among your mates there strongly to tolter.
I'm just going to briefly pause us there because I'm sure Helen is dying to talk about the various prisons that they are associated with.
It's perfectly obvious what it's about. It's just that we've got here the potential for an early modern theatrical monopoly that I am getting very excited about.
Go to one of the jails. Go directly to one of the jails.
Do not go past go.
Yes, I mean you'd have a jail on every single corner.
Yes.
Do not collect your £200. You have to pay £200 instead.
Yes, you have to pay to stay in prison. That's the thing. Yes.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
And you pay more to have your chains off, and you've got to buy food, and oh Lord, yes.
Okay, we've found the answer to our merchandising problem. We're just going to try and franchise a Monopoly set. Okay.
Why not?
I think actually the last line of that one, if it was T apostrophe alter, might work as an abbreviation of to alter.
Strongly to alter. Yes.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I make a note. Yes. To alter. Yeah. Anyway, Knights of the Halter. You don't really want to be a Knight of the Halter because it's not a long-term post.
And now the 9 o'clock news.
You'll hang around for a while, but anyway. Sorry, I apologise for pausing so swiftly. Let's just move on. Inconsideration, I think, is next.
You are to blame in faith, Precipitation, for you began this fond communication.
You are knaves to use such salutation.
Why, brother, we speak for your consolation.
Speak what you will, even with you I can make. Speak you in mirth, and in mirth I do take it. But by the mass, and if you go about me to flout, I will make the better of all of you three aloud.
No, sir, no, we came not hither you to molest. Our business, I tell you, is very earnest.
By God's...
I think you must lean into what you think that says. I think that's
By
probably
God's
right.
arse, true. If now we make not shift, we are all full like to have a great lift.
If ever covetous were in danger of punishment, he standeth now at the point of banishment.
Sancta Blasi, you make me much to muse. Passion of me, sirs, why, what news?
I think the day of judgment be now at hand, for it was never thus since the world did stand. The worldly man hath forsaken covetous clean, and unto contentation, and enough he doth lean.
What doth he? Benedicite, is this true?
Yea, faith, he is quite becomen anew. Moreover, with the heavenly man he is associate, where he studies the rules of godly life early and late.
Body of me, Precipitation, fetch me my gown, my cap, and my chain. I will to the town. Marry, sir, indeed it is time to stir coals. I will go near to fetch some of the out of their halls.
Haste, mark of waste, my brother covetous, you what? No love so soon cold as that is most hot. I warrant you, the worldly man will soon be weary, but they will not suffer him once to be merry. And verily he is inclined to be naught, therefore think not that by the he will be long taught.
Now, by the mass, of one that should have sapience, I never heard none utter such a foolish sentence. Know you not that whensoever a sinner doth repent, that God forgiveth him his wickedness incontinent?
True indeed, as heretofore hath been seen. Many have been made heavenly, that worldly have been.
Here is your gown, your chain, and your cap.
Body of me, but for shame thou shouldst bear me a rap. Worse on teeth, the devil in hell thee choke. What meanest thou, foolish knave, to bring me my cloak?
One, my brother is blind, I hold you a crown. Body of me, he knoweth not a cloak from a gown.
Tush, masters, he was stirring in the morning betime. At 4 of the clock in a cellar he was saying of prime.
I blame him not, though betimes he stir, for he is made ale cunner in our parish this year. His pains are so great in tasting of drink, that many times his eyes into his head do sink, and then he looketh prettily as narrow as a crow. I tell you he can scarce read the letters of his cross row.
Body of me, you are knaves all three. Take gown, chain, cap, and all for me. I will be heir with you. All I swear by God's mother, choose you. Shift how you can, one for another.
And the stage direction reads, be going out. So make to go out. Maybe he does indeed go out. Let's see.
I warrant you I shall be able to shift for myself, or else you may say I were a foolish health.
And
Why,
Temerity
brother?
holds him.
Why, brother, you said you would all things well take.
Yeah, but I would not have you, your fool, me to make.
And so maybe he goes now, but then comes immediately back in again.
For you know well enough that all you three, I am worthy the governor and ruler to be. Covetous, saith the wise man, is the root of all evil. Therefore covetous is the chiefest that cometh from your devil. But this is the knave, I mean Precipitation. But I will even with him, I swear, by the passion.
And here, the stage direction says come in before Precipitation, so it might be Precipitation has followed him off and then comes back on again. I'm not sure. We'll discuss this in a moment.
I am sorry, by my truth, that you are so sore offended. What, sir, if a fault be made, it shall be amended.
Nay, faith, I am an ale cunner or some drunken fool. I am no better, but your courage I will cool.
And he fighteth them both with his dagger.
That witless knave to Inconsideration, he was beginner of the disputation, but it is no matter, once all Christmas day, I will be even with you, be as be may.
And Inconsideration lays hold on him.
What, worshipful Master Covetous, are you angry with me? I am sorry for it, man. What can I more be? Hang me up by the neck like a strong thief, if ever I speak any word that shall put you to grief.
I would do for you, sirs, for I love you all three. Marry, then, I look that as I am, you should accept me.
By my troth, brother, I dare say none of us all, but that to do as you bid us, ready find you shall.
Marry, then, one good fellowship, let us like friends agree.
Why, above
Why,
all
above
things,
all things that we
desire we.
desire we.
Yes, why, above all things that desire we, they all make friends. We'll just briefly pause there. Lots of really nice back and forth business. I love the way Covetousness just goes, The worldly man's gone over to good. To the Batmobile! We must sort this problem out. Get me all me good fighting gear stuff, and then some of the business about the cloak and what they're handing him, and the way that works. I'm not quite following what the upset is.
It sounded like it was a cloak versus a, what was
A
it?
gown.
A gown.
Yeah. And then it sounded like they were having some sort of like
Yes,
words.
he wants
Chase,
a cloak.
chase.
Yes, he wants a cloak and a crown, and
Mm.
they give him a gown and a cap.
Ah, right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's just not Batman's image.
No, it's not. It's he's asked for his bat suit, and they've come back with a onesie. It's dinosaur onesie won't cut it, will it?
It's
I
the Three
like-
Stooges gone wild.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Sorry, Alan.
I was actually thinking more Groucho and Brothers.
Mhm.
You could see them doing this with Groucho as Covetousness, and the others being just the incompetence around him.
Wow, that's the thing, is that there's so much potential business here, and that's actually what I really like about Wager's stuff. Is actually the comic business potential of a lot of these scripts is really high.
It's a scaffolding, isn't it?
Yeah,
Uh,
well, the
an
going in
awful
and the
physic-
going. Yeah, it's the entrances and exits that just gives this potential, and then the fight. Who's fighting who? Question I don't know the answer to. Is an ale, Connor, a specific actual thing?
Yes.
I'm assuming Helen might know the answer to this.
Unless anybody else wants to. Oh, okay. Every in this case a parish, but every unit of local government would have an assize of ale, and the ale was very much limited as to price because the price was set. And they had a team of people, usually in larger places, but maybe only one in a small parish, whose job was, one, to make sure it was being sold by only the people who are allowed to, and two, that it was good and wholesome for man's stomach. Now, this involved tasting it.
And I can't see this leading to any form of abuse of the system.
Well, yeah, I mean, the problem was that these people were constantly, they had to swear an oath that they would deal justly between man, and that they would, but they were supposed to close people down if they were infringing the regulations, which must have led to a lot of neighborly disputes. But obviously, for the drinking man, the job of ale collar was an absolute boon, because he was required to taste.
But not inhale. Alan.
Daddy Duck was famously one in Stratford.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to count that. Yeah. Okay. We'll move on. So into the next portion. We're still in the middle of this. They've all agreed to make friends. We know perfectly well that their oaths of allegiance to each other are breakable at a moment's notice. So let's see what happens next.
Will you help? Yeah.
Yeah, covetous next. Yeah.
Will you help then to make me gay?
As you will wish it, so we will you awry.
Will you consent to show unto me reverence?
Yeah, at all times we will show to you our obedience.
Will you take me for your master and head?
Hey, marry, sir, for so it standeth us instead.
And do you say as you think in very deed?
Yea, that you shall prove in all time and need.
First to help on my gown some pains do you take, and then I will see what courtesy you can make.
It is trim indeed. By the mass, in that gown, methinks you be worthy to be mayor of a town.
Say you so? Then how like you this countenance?
Very comely, and like a person of great governance.
Then all is well. Come, come, do your duty.
Oh,
O
worthy Prince Covetous, we humbly salute thee.
thee.
Body of me, that same will mar all. We in company I come, if covetous you do me call.
Therefore, it is best for us all to change our names.
Or else, paradenture, we shall come to shames.
Well, hold your peace. Then let me alone, and I will devise names for you, everyone.
And the stage direction says study. So I think some thinking action, very good there, very good thinking action there, as we hit the traditional point in an interlude where everyone pretends to be somebody else.
Sarah, nay, you gape at me.
What shall my name be?
You will have it, or I have it, will you? Sarah, the name shall be...
More studying goes on.
What, I pray you?
A shame take thee unmannerly lout. Thou camest so hastily, thou hast put me out. Nay, that maid looks on me.
So someone in the audience is putting you off. There's a woman looking at you. How dare she look at you? So yes, you're not very good at this thinking. You can hear the cogs turning, really, really grinding very slow there. More studying occurs.
Come hither, Inconsideration. I have a name for thee.
Have you, sir? I pray you, what shall it be?
Nay, by the mass, it is gone again.
I would know it, I tell you very fain.
Yeah, but you must tarry till I have it.
Say you, my brother hath a brave wit.
A shame take thee, I have them now, all three. Come hither, brother, I will tell you what your name shall be. You know it men nowadays to reason do trust, therefore reason. Yourself from henceforth name you must. Temerity, I know well thy quality, thou art heady, thou shalt be called agility. I study a name for precipitation, if it may hit. Let me see, by my truth, you shalt be called ready wit.
An excellent name indeed, for I am ready and quick with a pen. For before I see one, I can condemn 10. I pass not for any man's matters or cause. Money and wit shall govern the laws.
Well, masters, I have chosen names for each one of you, but mine own name I know not, I make God a vow. How if I call my name wit or policy?
Marry, sir, that agreeth to your nature exceedingly.
Truth, for what shall the worldly men do with you three? Except to maintain you, he take in me. Little worth is reason, ready wit and agility, except to maintain them there be a policy. Sirs, you tell me the worldly man is converted.
Yeah, faith, that forever from us he is departed.
Forever, quoth he. No, I warrant thee. What? This gear meaneth full well, I do espy. Thus he proposeth to go both to heaven and to hell, and fair news from hence to the people to tell. He will be a prophet that was wont to be a devil.
But his prophecy, I think, will prove but evil.
Well, no more words, enough is as good as a feast. They say it is perilous with edged tools to jest.
Now, sirs, I will tell you, this is all my drift, to get the worldly men hither by some shift. Temerity, thou shalt with him thyself acquaint, and what thou canst do to him forth you shall paint. Virtue is made an error by temerity, for stoutly he standeth against the verity. For temerity, learned men do say, is a quality to do all things without delay. So that if thou mayst get into his habitation, he will soon be weary enough of contentation. Then with him shall work precipitation, who is of this property and inclination to see and to do all without forecast. not thinking of things come or of things past. Therefore, after that temerity doth once enter, thou shalt put thy service in adventure. Then Inconsideration shall get into his mind, who is a quality much of the same kind. He wavers neither the time, person, nor place, neither, as they say, the tail nor the face. Thus, if you three with him once be placed, you shall see it. Enough of him shall soon be disgraced. Under the name of policy to enter, I do not doubt, and I being entered, enough shall be cast out. For where covetous in any place doth remain, there content with enough cannot abide certain, so that he shall run headling into the pit, doing all things headling without modesty or wit. Lo, here to you my mind I have disclosed, all have I said that I have now proposed.
By the faith of my body, it is worthily devised.
In all the haste go thou, and be thou disguised. Marry, now there cometh another thing to my remembrance. Are none of you acquainted with ghostly ignorance?
What he, pardie? He is my ghostly father.
I would speak with him so much the rather, for divers causes that I do consider, my brother and thou shalt depart hence together. Look you make you trim as fast as you can, and then in haste seek to speak with the worldly men. In consideration to ghostly ignorance thou shalt resort, and this message from me to him thou shalt report. First, that he name him self-devotion, and we will help him to dignity and promotion. Charge him not to be out of the way, for we purpose to send for him this present day.
For as much as you put your trust and confidence in me, what I can do for you, or it be long, you shall see.
Where to find ghostly ignorance, I am sure. Seldom or never at home at his own cure.
Sorry, muted. No, the sermons that ghostly ignorance have made have almost brought all ye parishes in English out of trade.
Well, how you apace that you were gone? Precipitation and I will tarry here alone.
Farewell, covetous, till we meet again.
That shall not be long if our purpose we obtain.
Nay, hear you, God be with you, will you be gone? Body of me, you are no better than knaves, everyone. Farewell, covetous, nay, farewell, good lob.
And be going out.
You have even as much manners as hath a dog.
Come back in again.
Plain covetous, this is according to promise, is it not? Well, what I intend to do for it, I wot what I wot.
I cry you mercy, right worshipful Meister Coetes, my most prudent, politic, sapient and wise.
Pardon us, by my truth, it was but forgotten.
Nay, I take it even thus, soon ripe, soon rotten. I am nobody with you, but by him I swear, I look the greatest stroke among you be to bear.
Enough is as good as a feast. We are warned our trow, from henceforth our duties I warrant ye we will show. We take our leave of you, noble Prince Coetes, the Prince Emperor, yea, the God of all vice.
O worthy visage and body well compact, O goodly man in wit, work and fact, we simple creatures do show you obedience, being mind to depart under your patience.
Yea, Mary, this is somewhat like the matter.
Crafty knaves, how they can a fool flatter.
Fare you well both, give me your hands, one after another. I love you dearly as the children of my mother.
And those two exit. There's a few little questions about some of the business there, as you listen to my dog barking in the background. There's, yes, the sort of going out business, because of course there is a moment when they're going, we've all got new names. Bye, covetous. So it's like, which is a game we've had in other plays before as well, with this sort of business of, you get given a new name and then the vices immediately forget which one it was. But I don't know if that's the driver here.
No, I don't think so, because it's a question of the fact that they didn't bow.
Yeah.
Ah, right.
They have even as much manners as hath a dog. He comes back in.
Mm.
And they then put on this, I cry you mercy, right worshipful master Covetousness.
So it's following on from the whole putting on robes and making himself look fabulous. They have to appreciate that he is higher status and play that game.
So
Yeah.
they have to do the bowing bit
Mm.
as
Basically,
he
it's one
leaves.
big ego trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Yeah.
haven't actually really talked about the nature of what their names mean either, actually, because, you know, they've got names which, I mean, covetousness is relatively straightforward. I don't know whether that quite matches what that character is doing. Answers on a postcard. But we've also got, you know, Temerity, which seems a bit, I don't know how vague that feels, as opposed to, you know, do these names really match who they are? And of course, Precipitousness rather than Precipitation, I think is perhaps a more, that might be a better gloss for that. I don't know. Am I wrong on that? I'm assuming that you are not the personification of a rain god, basically.
It's a weird one because there are times when you think that it matches, but then they suddenly switch roles all of a sudden. And, you know, when you're reading it, it's kind of, hang on a minute, I thought he was that. Or I thought, hang on, what? But it does make sense. I think it's part of, you know, like we were saying earlier about, you know, they're all part of this big ego trip and they have to keep changing in order to match this big baby throwing the old toys out the pram, you know, just to make him happy. So it wouldn't be at all surprising if they did they did match at the beginning, but when they're around him, they have to change quickly. It's like a narcissism gush, really.
Yeah. Other thoughts?
It's also, I mean, like vices do change their face, don't they? That's how you get tripped into it.
Yeah, because I mean, yes,
they don't always show the same face.
Helen.
The ghostly father implies confessor, I take it, which puts this and a lot of references to mass. If we're talking about the 1560s, we're just moving from Catholicism into the Elizabethan settlement. But how far into the 60s is this?
Quite late. I suspect if they're talking about ghostly fathers and masses, because they're vices, they're not in favour.
Right. Okay. That's fine. The thing is that up to 69, you've got both things cohabiting fairly inconveniently, but nobody's making much of a fuss about it. After 69, then it becomes treasonable.
I think that's to some degree. Well, no, I won't go into that at this stage yet. So this is dated at roughly it's 68. So it's still in that area. There's a big flourishing in the 1560s of plays before Mary's reign. You know that are hard Protestant tracts, and there's an awful lot. There isn't. I don't think there are any plays that really push that get published around here a Catholic viewpoint very much. So I would assume the bias here is pro-Protestant. So if the vices are in favour of Catholicism, it's because the play itself is not.
Good.
If that makes sense.
Total.
But I could be entirely wrong on that point, because we haven't gone that deep yet. Any agreements, disagreements, thoughts on that? So yes, we've got the plan is made. They've got their mark. There's always a bit of a mark quality, like a con is going on. They've figured out who what their alias is and their cover story is, and they're off to do their job. Because the worldly man, who's content with enough, is going to enter in a moment. But there's a little bit more business. So only 2 of the vices have exited, Temerity and Inconsideration. We're left with Precipitation and Covetousness. So they finally exit, and Covetous turns to Precipitation and says,
How sayest thou, Precipitation? How likest thou this matter?
By my truth, I will tell the truth, and not flatter. I perceive well enough what herein you do mean. You will not leave till you have marred him clean, not only riches singular and private, but also public weals you will spoliate. For I perceive by your former monition that through ghostly ignorance you will destroy devotion. I mean true faith in God's love and hope, and cause him in clear sunshine for light to grope.
Thou thinkest as truth is in very deed. I intend no less, if my device may likely speed. There will I begin, and if error once rage in religion, I warrant thee in public veil will soon be the vision.
Well, what you intend to me doth not appertain. My nature is to rage where haste doth reign, and what causeth haste? But only temerity, that maketh fools hardy with security. Precipitation forth doth this worldly man lead, so that all his affairs be done rudely on head. Then, Inconsideration both night and day shall prompt him forward nothing at all to weigh, neither to consider his beginning, neither at the end what shall be the winning. So that if all we do are proper nature and kind, we shall not regard who shall the profit find.
Lupus est in fabula. No more words.
I never fear any such kind of birds. This is the worldly man, I suppose, indeed.
You're muted, Robert.
You're muted.
Still muted.
Oh, it's saying such wonderful things. Enter the worldly man, and enough at this point. Let the worldly man stand afar off in a strange attire.
To work wisely with him, I see we had need.
And it is true, as wise King Solomon doth say, it is better to have a little with the fear of the Lord than to have as much treasure and yet go astray. I mean to decline from God's holy word. The proverb saith enough is as good as a feast. He that hath enough and cannot be content, in my judgment, is worse than a beast. For he wanteth a good conscience, mind, and intent.
And possibly misplaced stage direction, just poorly attired. I don't know if that's about enough or an extension of the strange attire of worldly man. We'll discuss later.
The chariot of covetous, as Barnard doth write, on 4 wheels of vices is carried away. And these be the 4 vices that he doth recite: contempt of God, forgetfulness of death each day, faint courage, and ungentleness, he doth say. These be the wheels that to adversity's cart doth belong. These have persuasions to beguile men many and strong. The same chariot hath 2 horses, which doth it draw, the one named Raveny, and the other Niggardship. Their carter is desire to have, who always doth claw by fraud or guile, or one another to nip. This carter hath 2 cords to his whip. One is appetite and felicity for to get, the other called dread and fear to forlet.
When this chariot goes in the ground of men's mind, he is not once able to think a good thought. The covetous of the heart so much to lucre bind, that he judgeth all things to be vain and naught, except some gain or profit thereby be brought. I myself am able to say it, for I do it know. To have gotten money, I studied to deceive high and low. But thanks be to God, the Father of all might, which will not the death of sinners, as scriptures to say, it hath pleased him to open unto me the true light. whereby I perceive the right path from the broad way. Therefore I am content myself for to stay with enough, which bringeth me to quiet in body and mind, yea, and all other commodities therewith I do find.
Godliness is great riches, if a man be content, when God hath sent him plenty and enough. Let us praise him for our food and raiment, and live godlily all our lives through. For we must tread the paths of death so sharp and rough, and then we shall be sure to carry as little away as we brought with us. Thus St. Paul doth say.
Just briefly pause there before Covetous steps into this happy duologue of isn't it great just having enough. Do we feel that the strange attire is of the worldly man? Is it a poorly arrayed? It's that slightly misplaced stage direction. Any thoughts in the room about that? I didn't. Yeah, sorry,
I think he's probably in considerably humbler clothing than he was in the first sequence.
Mm.
You know, homespun rather than anything of colour.
Mm. There will be a change again later on, I think. So maybe it's he who's poorly arrayed, but it's an interesting question as to are they both wearing the same clothes? Do they have matching jumpers?
Yes, I think it's important to note that what you wore very much dictated how other people thought of you.
Mm.
Mm.
I mean, no. I mean, nowadays, ripped jeans can be a fashion statement, but not so then. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would the equivalent
that much difference between what we wear? You can't always tell anything to do with people. I mean, cleanliness is usually a good indication, but not always.
Yeah. Would strange attire be something like when the Beatles went to India?
It may be. I mean, it might just be different, in that sense, a different attire, and he's poorly arrayed, and it's just to indicate that he's changed his outlook in life.
It says strange rather than. I mean, it says poor attire later, but
but it might be misplaced. That's the question. Is that that could just be an error. It could be indicating enough. You see, enough could be explicitly poorly arrayed, and he's just arrayed differently, strangely. There's no clues in the dialogue. That's the problem. So far, there might be more.
Yeah. The enough chariot of covetous analogy. Gosh, that's complicated. And not something you would remember.
Well, we must always remember each day to think about our own impending death. That's a very important, thing that's going to make us all happy. I mean, contempt of God, forgetfulness of death each day. I particularly like the spelling of appetite. The audience at home can't see. How many T's did they need to put in that one?
Well, it's got an extra syllable, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Appetitite.
Yeah.
Appetitite.
Yeah.
I mean, there is odd spelling in that generally, and it's like some words are just oddly spelt for us, and I feel like because the Vices are doing a lot of these words, it just makes sense for them to mess around.
Yes.
There will be some very deliberate spelling changes later as well to indicate dialogue and dialect. So there's more joy to come.
Oh no!
Yeah, tomorrow. Okay, let's move forward. So they've done their wonderful love in and the greatness of their lives. Covetous is going to step in.
Body of me, he's marvellous foregone. We shall have somewhat to do with him anon.
It was ill luck that he came not alone. I would that beggarly knave in hell were.
Well, let me alone, I will go near, to cause him of his company to be wary. I have done as great acts thrice this year. I am not to learn to row in Illyrian's ferry. I will go to him, and thou shalt wait upon me. Thou shalt hear what a tale to him I will tell.
If thou speed well now, I dare promise thee, the devil will give thee the crown of hell.
God speed you, sir, I pray you. Might I be so bold as to have a word or two with you in your ear?
Yea, heartily, my friend, say what you would. Your mind unto me you may boldly declare.
I pray you, are you not acquainted with this gentleman? I would fain speak with him a word or twain alone. I beseech you help me to my request, if you can, for I have haste on my way, I must needs be gone.
If you had required a greater thing of me, I would have done it for you, I tell you certain. Sir, one of yonder men which you do see would speak with you alone, very fain.
I will go to him and know his mind. Is it you that would speak with me, my friend?
Yea, forsooth, sir.
What say you to me?
Oh, sir. Oh, good sir. Oh, my heart will break. Oh, for sorrow, God, what I cannot speak.
And weep is the stage direction.
What is the matter? Wherefore weep you thus?
More weeping. From Precipitation this time.
Pure love causeth him, sir. I am sure that he loves you at the heart.
I thank him truly. It is undeserved on my part. Gentle friend, I pray you cease your lamentation. Sure, it is a strange thing to see a man weep on this fashion.
Let the vice weep and howl and make great lamentation to the worldly man.
Oh, I cannot choose. I cannot choose. Oh, I cannot choose if my life I should lose to hear that I hear. Well, it is no matter. Oh, I am not here that any man will flatter.
To hear what you hear? Why, what hear you of me?
Marry, sir, he heareth it wonderfully changed you be.
I am so indeed. For that I give God the glory. And if you be my friend, for my change you are not sorry. I trust I've chosen all for the best. For my former wickedness I hate and detest.
Nay, I would to God that were the worst, but I shall have ill will. I think I am accursed.
I judge him not to be of a discreet mind, that for the truth he will be angry with his friend. The talk of talkers' tongues I do not much weigh, yet I pray you heartily tell me what they say.
Covetous, covetous, every man saith you be. A shame take them all prattling knaves for me. I am of such a nature as no man is but I. To hear my friend ill spoken of, I had rather die. Yes, wise man, you are called even so. All the country of you speak both shame and woe. He was wont, saith one, to keep a good house, but now, saith another, there is no living for a mouse.
If this be the worst, let talk, I do not care. Let them say so still hardly, and do not spare. I trust I have chosen with Mary the better part.
Sorry.
Oh, yet, good sir, this grieveth him to the heart.
Yeah, God wot, it is none other. I love you as well as mine unborn brother. Think you, it grieveth me not to hear each boy and girl to say that a worldly man is become a churl?
He had need to live very circumspectly, but would take upon him to please all men directly. Behold, enough.
And goes towards him, presumably goes towards enough.
Nay, hear you, this grieveth me worst, so God me save.
And plucks him back.
They say you keep company with every beggarly knave.
Where I keep company, they have naught to do. As near as I can, into none but honest company I go. See you, I pray you, enough.
Nay, but hear you, is enough his name?
Yea, indeed, it is indeed, even the very self same.
Saint Dunstan, a man would not judge it by his coat. No, truly, I would not take him to be worth a groat. Hark you, in faith, know you not me.
No, truly that I wot of, I did you never see.
That is marvel. Indeed, the truthful to tell, I dare say your father knew us both very well.
Did you never hear him speak of one policy?
Yes, that I'm sure 100 times verily.
I am he, verily, and this your friend ready wit, with whom to be acquainted for you is it fit?
Truth, indeed, as Seneca saith wittily, the wise man and not the rich is void of misery.
Policy and ready wit, now the truth is so, there is no man living that can spare you two. I trust God worketh for me happily indeed, to send me all such things whereof I have need. For without a ready wit, who can answer make? Without a policy, all commodities will slake. A ready wit will soon gather and conceive what he shall forsake, and what he shall receive. Truly I now remember a saying of Tully the divine, wherein he doth both wisdom and learning define. Learning maketh young men sober, saith he, and it causeth old men of good comfort to be. Policy is the riches and possession of the poor, yea, it garnishes the rich we goodly adore, so that there is no strait calling or degree that may conveniently without you be. Give me your hands, for you are welcome heartily. I am exceeding joyful of your good company. Enough, I beseech you, to bid my friends welcome hither, for from henceforth we must dwell all together.
Be not rash in taking of a friend, Aristotle doth say, nor when thou hast taken him, cast him not away. Admit not thy friend either high or low, except his behaviour to others thou dost know. For look how before he hath served his other friend, even so will he serve thee also in the end.
Your parables truly I do not well understand, except you mean I should have no friends but you by me to stand.
Enough is as good as a feast, well you wot. More than enough a man needeth not. Whether it be lands, money, friends, or store, if he have enough, what needeth he any more?
I perceive that against us too you do grudge. Can a man of policy and ready wit have too much? The noble King Solomon was rich and had wisdom great store, yet he ceased not daily to pray to God for more.
Get thee store friends, saith Cicero, for it is deemed a true friend more than kinsfolk is to be esteemed.
It is an old proverb, and of an ancient time, which saith, it is not all gold that like gold doth shine. No more are all friends that friendship pretend, as is it approved with so many in the end.
Yea, enough, but I'm sure that this policy and this ready wit are my friends verily.
Are we? The faith thereof you may be sure. We are they which your wealth shall procure. Enough is not enough without us too, for having not us, what can enough do? Enough is maintained by wisdom and policy, which is contained of a ready wit naturally.
Having a ready wit and of policy the skill, you need not to care for this enough except you will. There is another enough which is invisible, which enough to want is impossible. As for this enough is enough, I cannot deny, but this enough serveth but even competently. You have no more now than doth yourself serve, so that your poor brethren for all you may serve. But enough that cometh by us twain is able yourself and many others to sustain.
Your words are even as true as the gospel, as one named Reason of late did to me tell. You may be more heavenly, saith he, having riches, than if you had nothing that truth to express. And I find his words true, when alms I would give, I have not wherewith the needy to relieve. Enough I have for myself, I cannot say nay, but I would always have more to succour the needy alway.
These words proceed from a covetous mind, and from a worldly lust which doth you blind. Was not the poor widow for her offspring praised more than all they it offered of their superfluity and store? The sacrifice of God, as the prophet David doth say, is a broken heart and a good mind alway.
He says well, by lady, and like an honest man. But yet, sir, riches to be good, well, prove I can. For every man is not called after one sort, but some are called to prophesy, some to preach and exhort, and he by that means heaven's joys to win. But every man knoweth not that way to walk in. Therefore every man, as his vocation is, must walk. I am sure that against this you will not talk.
The greatest boasters are not the best givers, nor the earnest preachers are the best livers. As lucre increases riches and honour, so covetous enlargeth daily more and more. I know some in this realm that once were content with poorly enough which God to them had sent, wishing of a good conscience, as they said verily, that God would once again restore the verity. If it please thee, God, said they, thy word to us again send, and then truly our covetous lives we will amend. But since it hath pleased God them to wealth to restore, they are 10 times more covetous than they were before. Yea, headlong without all consideration, they for covetous make some laws in that nation. Such buying and selling of leases and benefices, such doubling of wares to extreme prices, so shamefully God's ministers they poll and shave, that not half enough to live upon they have. But it is an old saying and a true certainty, it will not out of the flesh is bread, and it bone verily. The worldly man will needs be a worldly man still. Well, choose you, I will let you alone to do what you will. I cannot think but those that hold me in scorn will be glad of me or ever the year be half worn.
And enough exits in disgust, and that's as far as we're going to get today. We're over halfway. In fact, we've gone a fairly chunky bit. We could go a little bit further forward, but I think there's quite a lot to digest there.
Can someone construe that line that I made a complete?
Yeah, I was just looking at that. It will not out of the flesh it will not out of the flesh
yet
bread.
Yet.
Yet
is bread in it.
But it is an old saying and a true certainty. It will not out of the flesh, yet is bread in the bone verily.
It is bread
Probably took bone.
In bone verily, yes.
In bone verily.
There's lots and lots of questions about all sorts of elements of the text, so that's a good one to flag, because it is a bit of a sod. Well, to be fair, it's enough going, right, well, I'm off then. We're going back to the prologue, people. Remember that bit in the prologue? You remember all that bit earlier? Yeah, unto good men, evil men have lewd condition by their evil words to bring good men into suspicion. Ladies and gentlemen, it's only taken us an hour and a half, but we have finally reached the point the prologue has mentioned. in stage time, it's much, much less. It's probably only about 40 minutes or so. But, we have now got to the point. One of the points of the opening of the play.
I mean, the argument that you can't be charitable unless you're rich, and the richer you are, the more charitable you can be, and this is a good reason for amassing an enormous amount of money, is one that I have heard.
Yes.
Trickle down economy.
Yeah.
So I seem to remember certainly Grantham-ite who pushed that line.
Yeah, I think it's been pushed by many people.
Yeah.
I just love the way that Covetous. I mean, it is that sort of thing. I've heard they're saying terrible things about you. Have you heard what they're saying about you? Oh, they're saying you. Oh, it's awful, isn't it? Awful. These wild rumours they're saying about you. Oh.
Yes. However, we have discovered who is beggarly dressed.
Have we now? Oh, excellent.
It's enough.
It's enough. So the stage direction there, or the note next to enough, is accurate. Excellent. I can make a note there.
Yes, it's not. I mean, the worldly man is differently dressed.
I think that's what strange means in this context. Yeah.
Presumably more plainly dressed, but the one who is beggarly dressed is enough.
Excellent. It's a bit of a proverb battle again. They like their proverb battles. Again, it's a sort of mirror, slightly shorter version of what we had at the opening of the play, which he went one way with. I mean, it's a good point that you can almost win any argument with proverbs if you know which ones to wield, because you can make them work for any occasion, any direction.
And the worldly man quotes Tully, who is we would call Cicero, and then Precipitation later actually calls him Cicero. And Tully would be much more common at this time.
Yes, definitely turns up in a couple of other. I think turns up in the opening of Jack Juggler off the top of my head as an explicit sort of school context reference. And of course, we should be looking at the probability that this is perhaps within a school or designed for a school environment for perhaps for the edification of the young as well as for a general audience as well. There is a bit of an emphasis there on that kind of instruction. Certainly with other wager plays, as it were. So we're into final thoughts, really, about the play overall so far. We've got a lot of good stuff that I'm enjoying. It's as ever with sort of interlude type things that it's a genre that doesn't really exist for us today in the same way. So it's outside of its continuum. It's always a bit of an ask. But there's some really nice stuff in here that I'm really enjoying. Tamara, any final thoughts from you about the play overall so far?
I actually think this is the first one that I did with explicit vices on here. Which is just a side note, but I'm just trying to fill time until I've made up my thoughts.
It is true. The afternoon sessions have been more slightly later play heavy than these. This is normally the kind of text I field in an evening.
I tend to want to. Again, I'm coming at this from a how could we put this on stage perspective, and I think you have a massive potential for just outrageous comedy with it. And I think you could even go down the modernization route with it if you wanted. Because there are a lot of parallels that we pointed out some of them, but there are a lot of parallels that you can do. Because I guess this is something that is always something that happens. You have the worldly man and the heavenly man and the vices that may appear as virtues if they want.
Yes, I mean the thing is, with the comedy business, with the vices, does seem to work. It seems very solidly constructed. It's got a good physicality to it. I don't see a problem with that. But even the more serious moments where we get into these debates, they do flow reasonably well. And I think with some tweaking, the points at home being made there can be made quite effectively. It's the thing always with debates is to remember it's not a debate, it's an argument. You want to win. You've got to want to win, which I think point made elsewhere by someone else. I forget who. Apologies if that is somebody else's thought that I've just stolen. Valentina, any final thoughts? You got quite a chunk of words today.
Yeah. I was struggling with like how much of a mustache twirling villain is this character, because for some reason it just puts me in mind of Jafar from Aladdin. But I think it's got a lot of potential for business in all these long speeches and stuff. And there's so much, as you said, not discussion is the wrong word, but like people disagreeing with each other, vices disagreeing with each other, that there's a lot of potential for like staging it. What I don't know if I'm the only one, but like, I didn't think the worldly man was doing so badly before enough came up and tried to sway him from his course. I didn't think he was that much of a bad person.
No, I don't think he was. I think he was just a person.
But yeah, I was just like, it's like, wait a second, if you let him be, like, he'll be all right. But yeah, that's
I thought you did very well with the Vice weeping sequence. It's such a nice thing of just, I'm so sad. It's so much fun to be had with that evil people play acting on stage with the audience knowing. It's great.
It's fun.
Alan, final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's moving at a fair pace. I think certainly the disputation between the four vices, as it were, once it's rehearsed and on stage, it would move at a cracking pace, with lines almost tripping over each other, each of them trying to outshine the others, as it were. There's obviously some issues in terms of modernising the spelling to
there's lots of textual work we need to do behind the scenes.
But I don't think there's an awful lot that would need to be removed to make it work at pace.
Yeah, no, I quite agree. Sascha, final thoughts?
Nothing really to add for once, to be honest. I think a lot of it's been covered.
Excellent. Helen, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm mortified that I hesitated to swear by God's arse.
Isn't that a great line?
Yeah, I sort of looked at it and thought, is it?
Oh yes,
it is.
I think there's a little bit more like that to come. So
Yes, but I mean, given the right encouragement, I hope I gave the line its proper weight.
Arse.
Yeah.
Arse.
But I mean, it's yes, I hadn't quite got the measure of this play at that stage. in my defence, the prologue was very polite.
Yes. It is interesting that we, this is the fourth and last. We've almost completed the set. We could do the box set of Wager's plays very very swiftly. Wouldn't take long. And he does have a certain sprightliness to a lot of him. A lot of his writing. Some of his others got bogged down, but this some of them are quite disturbing actually. I think there's one of the others caused all sorts of heartache. So yes, anybody got any final thoughts before I close the session? We're all wagered out. So we are going to be finishing the final, probably arguably the final third, slightly less than a half at least, of the play tomorrow in another session. So all that remains is thank all the readers today and say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.